Admiral Park Hyanwoo stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the glowing message that had just arrived. His hands gripped the metal railing so hard his knuckles turned white. The words on the screen seemed impossible to believe. Immediate ceasefire declared. All human forces to stand down, effective immediately. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of computers and life support systems. Every crew member had stopped what they were doing to look at their admiral. They could see the anger and confusion on his face. Commander Lee Jinho walked up to him carefully. The younger officer had served under Hyanwoo for 3 years now. He had never seen his commander look so upset. "Sir, what should we do?" Jinho asked in a quiet voice. Hyanwoo did not answer right away. He kept reading the message over and over again. 18 months. That was all the time they had been fighting this war against the alien coalition. 18 months of blood, sweat, and desperate battles across dozens of star systems. But those 18 months had changed everything for humanity. When the war started, human ships were slow and weak compared to the aliens. Human weapons could barely scratch the enemy's energy shields. Human tactics were simple and predictable. Not anymore, Admiral. Jinho tried again. Hyanwoo finally looked up from the display. Around the bridge, his crew waited for orders. These were good people, who had followed him through hell and back. They deserved better than this. "Signal all ships in the fleet," Hyanwoo said slowly. "Stand down weapons, but keep our defensive positions." Lieutenant Kim Min-soo turned around from his communication station. His young face showed the same confusion. Everyone felt, "Sir, the Safarian fleet is pulling back. They look like they are celebrating." Through the large windows of the bridge, everyone could see the alien ships. Just minutes ago, those same vessels had been firing deadly energy beams and launching missiles at the human fleet. Now they drifted peacefully in space. Their hull lights blinked in colorful patterns that looked almost like a party. The sight made Hyanwoo feel sick to his stomach. How could they celebrate when so many humans had died in this war? How could they act happy when families back on Earth were still mourning their lost sons and daughters? "Captain Oh Da-yoon is calling from the destroyer Lightning," Min-soo reported. "Put her through." Hyanwoo ordered. Captain Oh's voice came through the speakers, with static crackling around her words. "Admiral, my crew does not understand what is happening. We were about to break through their main defense line. Our new attack formation was working perfectly. Why are we stopping now?" Hyanwoo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He understood exactly how Captain Oh felt. Her crew had worked so hard to perfect those new tactics. They had studied every enemy movement, analyzed every battle, and learned from every mistake. The first year of the war had been brutal for humanity. Human ships were destroyed faster than Earth could build new ones. Human crews died because they did not know how to fight in the darkness of space. The aliens had been fighting wars among the stars for thousands of years. Humans had barely left their home planet. But humans learned fast, much faster than anyone expected. In the last 6 months, everything had changed. Human engineers had figured out how to make their kinetic weapons pierce through alien energy shields. Human admirals had developed new battle formations that confused and outmaneuvered enemy fleets. Human factories had started producing warships at a speed that amazed even the humans themselves. Each new ship that rolled out of Earth's orbital shipyards was better than the last one. Faster engines, stronger armor, more powerful weapons. The aliens had stopped advancing and started defending their positions. Some enemy fleets had even retreated from star systems they had held for months. Humanity was not just learning how to fight, they were getting good at it. Really good. "Captain," Oh Hyanwoo said into the com system, "I know this is hard to understand, but we have our orders." "Sir, with respect, these orders make no sense. We were winning." She was right, and everyone on the bridge knew it. The latest intelligence reports showed that human forces were gaining ground in almost every theater of the war. The new weapons were working better than anyone had hoped. The alien coalition was struggling to adapt to human tactics. For the first time since the war began, human commanders were confident they could actually win, not just survive, but achieve total victory over an enemy that had seemed impossible to defeat. And now, just when humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of, someone had decided the war should end. Lieutenant Kim Min spoke up again. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender offers from several Zephyrian commanders. They want to discuss terms? Surrender offers?" Hyanwu asked in surprise. "Yes, sir. They seem eager to end hostilities and return to their home worlds." Hyanwu stared out at the alien fleet. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. The enemy had been fighting desperately just hours ago. Now they acted like the war had been some kind of game that was finally over. A terrible thought began to form in the Admiral's mind, but he pushed it away. There would be time to analyze what had really happened here. Right now, he had to take care of his people. The war was over, but somehow, Admiral Park Hyanwu felt like humanity's real test was just beginning. Captain Kong So-young rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screens around her small office. She had been working for 12 hours straight, but sleep would not come easily tonight. The numbers on her screens told a story that made her stomach feel sick. 3 months had passed since the war ended. 3 months since the aliens had suddenly stopped fighting and gone home. Everyone on Earth was celebrating the peace, but So could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. "Lieutenant Yoon, run that simulation one more time," she said to her assistant. "Lieutenant Yoon." Jamin sighed quietly. They had already watched this same battle simulation 12 times today, but he pressed the button anyway. The holographic display in the center of the room lit up, showing tiny ships moving through space. So-young watched carefully as the simulation played out. It showed the Battle of Kepler Station, one of the biggest fights of the war. In the display, hundreds of alien ships surrounded a much smaller group of human vessels. The aliens had more ships, better weapons, and stronger shields. They should have destroyed the human fleet in minutes, but they did not. Instead, they fought. Carefully, almost gently. They would attack for a while, then pull back. They would surround the humans, then create gaps in their formation that allowed the human ships to escape. "Look at this part," So-young said, pointing at the screen. "The Zephyrian fleet had us completely surrounded. Our shields were failing. Our ammunition was almost gone. One more push and they would have won." Jamin nodded. "But they retreated instead. Their commander said his ships needed to refuel." "Ships that had just arrived in the system an hour earlier," So-young added. "Fresh ships with full fuel tanks." The same pattern appeared in battle after battle. The aliens always had more ships and better technology. They always seemed to be winning. But at the crucial moment, they would always find a reason to back away. "Ma'am," Jamin said quietly, "what if they were not really trying to beat us?" So-young looked at her young assistant. He was barely 25 years old, fresh out of the military academy. But sometimes young minds saw things that older, more experienced people missed. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Well, it looks like they were studying us, learning how we fight. Every time we developed a new tactic, they would send different ships to face us. It was like they wanted their entire military to see what humans could do." So-young felt a chill run down her spine. She pulled up another set of data on her main screen. This showed which alien units had fought against which human fleets throughout the war. The pattern was clear once she knew what to look for. The aliens had carefully rotated their forces so that every major alien military unit had faced human ships at least once. Some had fought against humans multiple times, but always in different situations that forced the humans to use different tactics. They were not trying to win, So-young whispered. They were trying to learn. Her communication panel suddenly chimed with an incoming call. The face of General Cho Min-ho appeared on her screen. He looked tired and worried, Captain Kong, I need your full analysis report within 1 hour, the general said without any greeting. The Galactic Council has just made a new proposal to Earth's government. What kind of proposal, sir? They want to place monitoring stations around our solar system. They claim it is for galactic security, to make sure there are no more wars. Soya felt her heart start beating faster. General, I think we have a big problem. Based on my analysis of the war data, I believe we were never actually in a real war. General Cho's expression grew even more serious. What are you saying, Captain? I think the whole thing was a test, sir. The aliens were not trying to defeat us. They were trying to examine us, to see how we fight, how we adapt, how quickly we can learn new things. The general was quiet for a long moment. So Young could see him thinking, processing what she had told him. If you are right, he finally said, then the question is whether we passed their test or failed it. So Young turned to look out the small window of her office. Earth hung in space below the lunar station, blue and beautiful and peaceful. It looked the same as it always had, but something had changed. At the edge of her vision, she could see them. Small dots of light that had not been there 4 months ago. Alien ships, positioned around Earth's solar system like silent guardians, or like prison guards. General, she said slowly, I think they are afraid of us. Afraid? Why would they be afraid of us? They have better technology and more ships. Because we learned too fast, sir. In 18 months, we went from barely being able to fight in space to developing weapons and tactics that worried them. We adapted faster than they expected. Much faster. So-young pulled up one more file on her computer. It showed the production numbers from Earth's shipyards during the war. The rate of improvement was incredible. Each month, human ships had gotten better, faster, stronger. By the end of the war, the newest human vessels were almost as advanced as alien technology that had been developed over thousands of years. They gave us 18 months to show them what we could do, So-young said, and what they saw scared them enough to end the war before we could show them what we were really capable of. Outside her window, the alien monitoring ships continued their silent watch over humanity's homeworld. Admiral Park Hyun-woo walked into the emergency meeting room with heavy steps. The most important military leaders of Earth sat around a large table, their faces showing worry and confusion. At the head of the table stood Ambassador Wei Su-jin, who had just returned from the Galactic Council with news that would change everything. Thank you all for coming so quickly, Su-jin began. Her voice was calm, but Hyun-woo could see the tension in her shoulders. I have information from the Galactic Council that explains why our war ended so suddenly. The room fell completely silent. Everyone had been wondering about that question for months. Why had the aliens stopped fighting just when humanity was getting strong? Sujin pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. The image showed something that looked like a massive metal spider, but it was the size of a moon. Its mechanical legs reached out to grab pieces of a planet, crushing them and feeding them into its central body. They are called the Sujin said. They are not alive like us. They are machines, but they think and plan like living creatures. And they eat entire star systems. General Cho Minho leaned forward in his chair. How long have the aliens known about these things? Over 300 years, Sujin answered. The Zephyrians, the Crystal People, all the alien species we fought. In our war, they have been fighting the Devourers for centuries, and they are losing. Defense Minister Nam Haijin shook her head in disbelief. Then why did they waste time fighting us? If they have such a terrible enemy, why start a war with Earth? Sujin changed the holographic display. Now it showed a map of the galaxy with red dots spreading slowly from the outer edge toward the center. Each red dot was a star system that the Devourers had completely destroyed. Our war was not real, Sujin said quietly. It was a test. The words hit the room like a physical blow. Admiral Hyun-woo felt anger rising in his chest. All those human lives lost, all those battles fought, all that pain and suffering, and it had been a test. They needed to know if humans could help them fight the Devourers, Sujin continued. So they created a fake war to see how we would respond. They wanted to measure our ability to learn and adapt under pressure. Captain Kong Soyoung, who had been analyzing the war data for months, spoke up. The aliens could have defeated us in the first month if they had really wanted to. But they did not want to win. They wanted to see what we could do. General Seo clenched his fists. How many of our people died for their test? Too many, Sujin said sadly. But now they need our help. The Devourers are moving faster than ever before. The Alien Alliance estimates they have maybe 50 years before the machines reach the core worlds of the galaxy, including Earth. Minister Nam asked. But why do they think we can help? They had superior technology in numbers. They beat us. Actually, they did not beat us, Captain Kang said. She stood up and walked to the holographic display. My analysis shows that by the end of our 18-month war, human weapons and tactics had evolved to the point where we were winning most battles. The aliens ended the war because we were becoming too dangerous. Admiral Hyan Wu studied the images of the Devourers on the display. The machines were huge and looked incredibly powerful. But they were still just machines. Machines followed patterns, and humans were very good at breaking patterns. They are afraid of us, he said quietly. Suj nodded. The Zephyrian military leaders admitted something to me. They said human tactical evolution happened faster than they thought was possible. In 18 months, we went from primitive fighters to developing weapons they could not defend against. Through the large windows of the meeting room, everyone could see Earth's orbital shipyards. Even though the war was over, the shipyards had not slowed down. In fact, they were working faster than ever, building new ships with improved designs every week. It is like our species knows something is coming, Minister Nam observed. Commander, Li Jinho suddenly entered the room. He saluted quickly and walked straight to Admiral Hyan Wu. Sir, I apologize for interrupting, but you need to hear this immediately. Our long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the galaxy. How massive? Hyan Wu asked. Bigger than anything we have ever seen, sir. The computer estimates some of these objects are the size of small planets, but they are moving through space under their own power. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Devourers were no longer just a distant threat. They were coming. Admiral Hyan Wu stood up slowly and looked around the table at the faces of Earth's military leaders. These people had led humanity through one war already. Now they would have to lead them through another one. But this time would be different. This time, humanity would not be learning how to fight while under attack. This time, they would be ready. From the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, Hyan Wu said in a firm voice. It looks like the galaxy is about to find out what happens when you give humanity a real enemy to fight. The war that was coming would not be a test. It would be a fight for the survival of every living thing in the galaxy. And humanity intended to win. Commander Seo Dong-hyen gripped the railing of his ship as the stars around him suddenly changed. One moment they were traveling through the bright tunnel of hyperspace, and the next moment they were staring at a nightmare. The Kepler 442 system looked like it was being eaten alive. Massive metal creatures the size of cities floated through space, using giant mechanical arms to tear chunks off planets and feed them into their glowing centers. Smaller robot ships swarmed around them like angry insects. Sir, target scan is complete, Lieutenant Kim Yujin called out from her station. I count 17 of the big harvester machines, and about 200 smaller drones. Dong Hien nodded grimly. Through the main view screen of the UES Retribution, he could see the broken remains of an alien fleet limping away from the battle. These were Zephyrian ships, the same species that had fought humans in the test war. Now they were running for their lives. Get me Admiral Tekvar Dongyan ordered. The alien commander's face appeared on screen moments later. His blue-scaled features showed exhaustion and defeat. Behind him, smoke filled his damaged bridge. Commander SEO, thank the stars you are here, Tekvar said. We have been fighting for 6 months. I have lost 60% of my fleet. These machines are impossible to stop. Dong Hien studied the tactical displays showing the positions of all the Devourer units. They moved in perfect formation, like a dance that had been practiced 1,000 times. But Dong Hien saw something else. In their movements, they followed rules, patterns, and patterns could be broken. Admiral, pull your ships back to a safe distance, Dong Hien said. We will handle this. But Commander, you only have 12 ships. We had over 100 when we started. Trust me, Dong Yan said, then cut the communication. He opened a channel. To all human ships in his battle group. All vessels, this is Commander SEO. Listen carefully. These machines do not feel fear. They do not get tired. They do not surrender. But they are still just machines. They think in straight lines. We do not. Captain Hong Min-young's voice came through from the heavy cruiser Defiance. Our kinetic accelerators are charged and ready. Sir, should we target the biggest harvester? No, Dong Hien said, still studying the enemy formation. We are going to do something the Zephyrians never tried. We are going to hit all of them at the same time. He could hear surprised voices from several ships. The alien fleets always focused their fire on one enemy at a time. It was the logical approach. But logic was not always the best weapon. Sir, called Lieutenant Kim Yujin, the Devourers are moving toward the 4th planet. They will start consuming it in 20 minutes. Then we had better finish this quickly, Dong Hien replied. All ships, attack formation Delta. Remember your timing. The human fleet spread out into a complex 3-dimensional pattern that looked almost random, but Dong Hien knew exactly what he was doing. Each ship had a specific target and a precise moment to fire. The Devourers noticed the human ships approaching and began to turn their weapons toward them, but the machines were confused. The human formation did not match any pattern in their programming. They could not predict where the next attack would come from. All ships, execute, Dong Hien commanded. 12 human ships fired at exactly the same moment. But they did not fire at the machines themselves. Instead, they fired at the empty space between the Devourers, creating a web of intersecting energy beams and kinetic projectiles. The Devourers tried to dodge, following their programmed evasion patterns, but no matter which way they moved, they flew directly into the human weapons fire. It was like watching a perfectly choreographed trap close around its prey. The first harvester exploded in a brilliant flash of light, then the second, then 3, more in rapid succession. Reload and fire again, Dong Hien ordered. Same pattern, different timing. The second wave of human attacks caught the remaining Devourers as they tried to regroup. More explosions lit up the darkness of space. The smaller drone ships tried to swarm the human fleet, but they flew into the same trap their larger cousins had fallen into. 4 hours later, the Kepler 442 system was quiet except for the expanding clouds of metal debris that had once been devouring machines. Not a single enemy unit remained active. Admiral Tekvar's voice came through the communication system, filled with static and amazement. Commander CO, I do not understand. My fleet fought those machines for 6 months. We managed to destroy only 3 harvesters, and we lost most of our ships doing it. You destroyed 17 harvesters and all their support drones in 4 hours. How is this possible? Lieutenant Colonel Park Sura answered from the science vessel Breakthrough. Admiral, your people fight like the machines expect you to fight. You try to outmaneuver them, outgun them, outlast them. But we do something different. What do you do? Tekvar asked. We calculated their behavioral patterns and made those patterns work against them. Sora explained. We turned their own programming into a weapon. Commander Donghyun smiled as he watched his fleet prepare to jump to hyperspace again. Humanity had a long list of Devourer strongholds to visit, and they were just getting started. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not just adapt to their enemies. They made their enemies. Irrelevant. Ambassador Wei Sujin walked into the Great Hall of the Galactic Council with steady steps. Her black diplomatic uniform was perfectly pressed, and her face showed no emotion. Behind her walked Admiral Park Hyun-woo and Defense Minister Nam Haijin, representing the military might of Earth. The hall was enormous, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars above. Representatives from 47 different alien species sat in curved rows, all watching the three humans with careful eyes. Some looked grateful, some looked amazed, but most looked afraid. Sujin stopped at the center of the hall and pressed a button on her small device. Holographic displays appeared all around the chamber, showing star maps of the galaxy. Where red dots had once marked Devourer-controlled systems, now there was only empty space. Members of the Galactic Council, Sujin began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. 4 months ago, you came to Earth asking for help against an enemy that had threatened this galaxy for over 300 years. She paused, letting her words sink in. Every representative in the hall knew what was coming next. Today, I am here to report that the Devourer threat no longer exists. Their main intelligence center has been destroyed. Their production facilities have been turned into space dust. Their entire fleet has been eliminated. The hall remained silent, but Sujin could see the mixed emotions on the faces around her. Yes, they were happy the Devourers were gone, but they were also terrified of the species that had accomplished what they could not do. In 3 centuries, Councillor Vexeri of the Crystalline Collective was the first to speak. His crystal-like body reflected the light as he stood up. Ambassador Wei, the Council greatly appreciates humanity's contribution to galactic peace. However, we have some concerns about recent human activities. Sujin's expression did not change at all. What concerns your species now controls the largest and most powerful military force in known space. Some of our members are worried about what humans might do with such power. Admiral Hyun-woo stepped forward from his position behind Sujin. His military uniform was covered with medals from the Devourer War, and his presence seemed to fill the entire hall. Counselor, Hyun-woo said in a quiet voice that somehow reached every corner of the great chamber. When you created your fake war to test us, you learned that humans can adapt quickly to new situations. But there is something else you should have learned about us. What is that? Vexeri asked nervously. We remember everything, Hyun-woo said simply. The hall fell completely silent. Every alien representative understood the implication of those words. Humans remembered the test war. They remembered being tricked and manipulated. They remembered their people dying for someone else's experiment. Defense Minister Nam Haijin activated another holographic display. This one showed Earth's solar system, but it looked very different from what it had been a year ago. Massive shipyards surrounded every planet and moon. Construction facilities stretched for millions of kilometers through space. Earth's industrial capacity is now 40 times larger than it was during your test, Nam said matter-of-factly. Our exploration fleets are already mapping star systems beyond the edge of this galaxy, and our military technology has advanced to levels that your species do not yet understand. Ambassador Krelton, of the Hegemony, stood up with obvious worry on his reptilian features. What exactly are you trying to tell us, humans? Sujin smiled, but it was not a warm or friendly expression. It was the smile of someone who held all the power in a negotiation. We are telling you that this galaxy has reached a turning point, she said. You have 2 choices now. You can accept humanity as an equal partner in a new age of exploration and discovery. We can work together to build something better than what existed before. She paused and looked around the hall, at all the alien faces watching her. Or you can continue to think of humans as a species that needs to be controlled, tested, and contained. You can keep trying to manipulate us and use us for your own purposes. Through the massive windows of the council chamber, everyone could see human spaceships patrolling the space around the station. These were not the crude vessels that humanity had used during the test war. These new ships were sleek and deadly, with technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Hyan Wu spoke again, his voice carrying a weight that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. The test war ended too early, he said quietly. You never got to see what humanity was truly capable of when we stopped holding back. The Devourers learned that lesson. They do not exist anymore. The message was perfectly clear to everyone in the hall. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist in this galaxy. They were not begging for acceptance or seeking approval from older species. They were offering partnership, but they were offering it from a position of absolute strength. Su looked around the hall one final time. The choice is yours, counselors. But understand this, the galaxy has changed. Humanity is here to stay, and we will never again allow anyone to test us, manipulate us, or treat us as anything less than equals. The representatives sat in stunned silence as the three humans turned and walked out of the chamber. Outside the windows, more human ships appeared, their engines glowing like new stars. The old galactic order was dead. A new age had begun, and humanity would help decide what it looked like.